The year was 1415, and an African empire was about to change the world. But here's the question we need to ask ourselves. How much do you really know about African history? Welcome back to Pana-Afric, where we test your knowledge and reveal the stories that textbooks forgot to tell. Let me take you back to a moment that shaped human civilization itself. In 1324, a man named Mansa Musa ruled the Mali Empire, and he was the richest person on earth, not metaphorically, literally. When he made his pilgrimage to Mecca that year, his caravan stretched across the Sahara Desert with 60,000 people, 80 camels, and 12,000 slaves carrying 4 pounds of gold each. Imagine that. One person's wealth was so staggering that when his entourage arrived in Cairo, the price of gold collapsed across the entire Mediterranean region. The global economy shifted because of one African ruler's journey. But do you know what happened next? Mansa Musa founded the University of Timbuktu. That's right. While Europe was still crawling out of the Dark Ages, the Mali Empire was establishing centers of learning that would attract scholars from across the Islamic world. By the time this university was thriving, it housed over 100,000 manuscripts and thousands of students. Yet somehow, this achievement remains absent from most world history curricula. Now let's move forward 300 years. The year is 1652, and the Cape of Good Hope becomes a Dutch settlement. This single moment would eventually lead to centuries of exploitation and colonialism that would define the modern African continent. But here's what you need to understand. Resistance was immediate and relentless. The indigenous Khoi and San peoples fought against colonization for generations, even though they were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. Let me test you on something else. Who was Shaka? If you said he was just a warrior, you're only partially right. Shaka was the founder of the Zulu kingdom in the early 1800s. He revolutionized military strategy, created the assegai spear, and unified dozens of scattered clans into a powerful force. Between 1818 and 1824, Shaka transformed southern Africa's entire political landscape. His innovations in warfare were studied by military historians worldwide, yet his name rarely appears in standard history books. Now fast forward to the late 19th century. The Berlin Conference of 1884 divided Africa among European powers without a single African leader in the room. Imagine having your home carved up by strangers who've never set foot there. 14 European nations sat around a table and decided the fate of an entire continent and over 100 million people. This conference didn't conquer Africa, it simply formalized the theft that was already underway. But here's where it gets interesting. Africans didn't passively accept this partition. All across the continent, resistance movements rose up. In Ethiopia, Emperor Menelik II defeated the Italian army at the Battle of Adwa in 1896, making Ethiopia the only African nation to successfully resist colonization during that era. This victory inspired independence movements across the continent for decades to come. The 20th century brought new leaders and new struggles. Kwame Nkrumah led Ghana to independence in 1957, becoming the first sub-Saharan African nation to break free from colonial rule. Then came the wave. The Congo, Nigeria, Kenya, Algeria. One by one, African nations reclaimed their sovereignty, their dignity, their futures. But independence wasn't the end of the story. It was merely the beginning of a much longer struggle. Neocolonialism, civil wars, and international interference would plague the continent for decades. Yet despite these obstacles, African nations built schools, hospitals, and industries. They created art, music, and literature that would captivate the world. Here's what this documentary series is really about. It's about testing what you think you know and challenging you to dig deeper. African history isn't a footnote to Welling,